Okay, we are back with Saloon Sports for this show that will be airing on Thursday. We'll have all of our social media up by that point. We're trying some new formats as well for the show. And today we are reviewing the game from last week where the Cowboys lost 27-7 to the Atlanta Falcons. And despite the score, the Falcons did not look that good. I guess that's where we can jump right in and breaking down what happened during this game. And there's definitely a lot of different narratives. One of them is being like, yeah, the Falcons won the game, but they did not look like a team that was that superior to the Dallas Cowboys. What I took away was definitely the play of Chaz Green, how bad the offensive line as a whole played. There were two offensive linemen that played seemingly decently, and that was Travis Frederick and Lyle Collins. Of the three, had some problems, and Chaz Green was highlighted as being the biggest problem. Sean Lee got hurt with a hamstring injury, might miss a couple weeks. That's also a big problem. He might miss the next 3 games, which is something no Cowboy fan should want to hear because the defense looks really good when he plays and looks really bad when he doesn't. And I'll throw it over to Ben, and we'll take it to where you want to right now because there's a lot to discuss about that game.
Yeah, definitely after the Chiefs game, one of the biggest stories moving forward was how well the defense was playing. And at the start of the game, the defense was playing what has proven to be offense that has left a lot. But after Sean Lee and then Heath went down with an injury, there was just a big shift in the way the defense was playing. Like they were just not playing at the same level that they were. Just there was no way to keep the offense in the game. And on the flip side, the offense wasn't playing well enough to even be in the game to begin with. Which you alluded to earlier, racking up 6 sacks on Chaz Green, which an offense giving up 8 sacks is see, but you never want to see 6 sacks on one player. That's just that.
I believe it's happened 3 other times. Not 3 or 4.
In the history of the NFL?
3 or 4 other times, and that's it.
All right, well, that's neither here nor there. We're going to try to keep even keel. I guess my biggest thing as far as what the Cowboys should have done a little bit differently to try to that is to give Chaz Green a little more help from having a running back staying inside. One of our best blocking running backs left is Rod Smith, and he got a lot of playing time past week, but they should have kept him inside just to chip Claiborne a little bit to give Dak a little more time in the pocket to try to find somebody.
Yeah, there's a bunch to say about the play of the offensive line, and there were a lot of people taking hot takes at Dak and saying, "Oh, you see, he's just average," and I'm just like, well, I took some problems to that statement. Like any quarterback playing behind an offensive line that is jailbreaking that much is not going to have a great day. I believe Chaz Green ended up giving up 4 or 5 sacks, depending how you want to count one of them, and Brian Bell gave up 1 or 2. Chaz Green was eventually replaced in the 4th quarter, and Bell didn't look that great either. But at least he got beat to the inside on a sack. So there you go. And that's the thing with, I believe there was counting, and they gave Chaz Green, I believe it was, help on like 8 times technically where there was a chip or something. I'm not sure if that counted. The times where Cooper was also giving him help as a double team, and Chaz Green still got beat to the outside with a wide 9. A wide 9, for those who don't know, is pretty much pretend there's a tight end beside a tackle, and the tackle in the that end is out on the outside shoulder of that tackle. That's a wide 9 instead of a 7 technique where most defensive ends line up as. So he was way out there. And Chaz Green played tackle all through college. He was a tackle his first couple of years in the NFL. This training camp was the first time where he was trained as a guard. But in the past couple of weeks, since Jonathan Cooper, who didn't have the best game either, had taken over the left guard position, he's been practicing exclusively at tackle again. Chaz Green looked like he has never played the position before in his life. His technique was horrible. He could not get depth and get out there to basically, oh, you're obviously a wide 9, so you're probably going to keep trying to go on the outside. No, his hands kept getting slapped down and kept getting beat to the outside. Almost immediately, every time, which did not give the offense any chance. He exclusively cost the Cowboys numerous drives and points. Mike Nugent missed a kick. But there's arguments to be said the game could have been won if the left tackle position did not play as bad as it did for as long as it did. There's arguments to be made. They were only down by 3 at halftime.
The biggest argument with the sacks is if you go back and look at the game tape, all those sacks came third down, on downs that the Cowboys were actually a few times that we were actually moving the ball, halted by a holding penalty on second down, sack on third down, or something along that nature. Back screw ups that just threw a wrench in the offense, but also cost us in the field game.
Yeah, I don't know. I was like, Chaz Green deserves some credit, actually a lot of credit for steadying up at his locker room and answering questions after one of the worst performances of a left tackle in NFL history. And he still took questions after the game. Got to give him credit for that. And there is something to be said to the Cowboys could have left in the running back to help on that side exclusively, but that could have messed up the other blitzing pickups and everything. Because there's a lot that goes into helping a left tackle that's not as easy as helping a right tackle, because a lot of teams are right-handed, so the tight end traditionally lines up on the right-hand side, so it's a lot easier to help the right tackle. That's why you typically see teams put their least talented tackle on the right-hand side instead of the left-hand side. You can't get beat that bad, that the same way that many times by someone who was not playing like J.J. Watt beforehand. You just can't, not the same move, not every time. Even when he wasn't giving up sacks, there was constant pressure. I'm just like, what is going on? He's done it before. His technique was bad. Brian Broaddus from Dallas Cowboys that comes in, the technique was just awful. It was awful the whole game. He compared it to what Lyle Collins does. Lyle Collins will have bad technique for a couple of plays, but he gets it back together. Chaz Green had bad technique, and it just snowballed down. And that's where I want to transition to on this a little bit. Well, before we get to that, all into that personnel topic, but the rest of the game, the running game, none of the running backs can be blamed for this loss at all. Just can't. Can you really honestly gauge the running attack from this game? We can't say that Sean Lee is one of the most valuable players on this team, because defense without him, something's going on there at running our linebacker. When he's not there, they're missing something big. He's an all-pro player, but it shouldn't look that bad without him. And other than that, there's really not much to take away from that, because the play of the left tackle, and when Sean Lee left the game, literally wraps up the entire game. I don't think the Falcons did anything spectacular. They lost Coleman in the first quarter, I believe, after Anthony Hitchens lit him up, and he's got another concussion. So it's rare in the NFL where you can say that a team lost a game and another team didn't win, but I think the Cowboys definitely lost the game. The Atlanta Falcons benefited from that.
Question: Tevin Coleman definitely stepped in and had a phenomenal game in his own right. The Falcons offense put enough points on the board to win. Getting back to the Cowboys run game, I don't blame any of the running backs at all. I have no running room during the first half. I believe Dak out in rushing yards is I think he had like 40 at the half. I could be mistaken, but that just my head at this moment in time. Even Alfred Morris, he had a couple good runs in the second half, but there was just no holes. And I for one, certainly underestimated how Falcons front seven could have been before, really, because it was just for doing whatever we could do. And especially from a team that himself as being able to run the ball how they want, when they want, do that at all. That certainly changes things. It changes the dynamic of things entirely. Like we just couldn't do anything without the running game. Dak can't get his thing going. A few good throws and a few good drives, but ultimately they were stalled by Dax. Like it was just anytime we had something good going.
Yeah, I don't. Just looking at the way the game turned out and how bad the offensive line looked. Um, I can't really give their front four that much credit. Is when your left tackle is playing that bad, no other position was playing so bad on the offensive line that it couldn't have been rectified and helped out if your left tackle wasn't playing like he never played the position before. So it comes down to just that. Like Claiborne was getting immediate pressure every single time off of Chaz Green, and then just look back. Cooper had a couple of holds. I made the joke after the game: is Doug Free in shape? And it was a joke. I don't expect him to go outside and Doug Free to throw him in there.
Please.
And to a lot of Cowboys fans, that's a guy Cowboys fans hated for years. And when you look back at what he was doing, was he really that bad? When you see a performance like that, like honestly, I know Pro Football Focus rated him down pretty bad as well, but he was a lot better than what he got credit for. But yeah, just looking at what happened is I believe in the first half they averaged 0.5 yards a carry on first down runs. The holes weren't there, and we'll get into this more in the next segment. I just think they can get more at the running back position now for Morris, but we'll get into that in a bit. I don't know. And the problems with the sacks and the penalties were that the passing game was actually there. They found something. Bryce Butler was getting open. His catch down the field was like he beat his man bad. Like they're trying to get the ball to Butler down the field. Like they are trying to stretch the field with Bryce Butler, and it's becoming something you're seeing every week where there is a built-in attempt, strategic attempt, playing out during the week to get the ball to Bryce Butler down the field. And I actually like that. That's what he can do. And it's just that the sacks kept coming, and that caused a lot of problems. And then, in the fourth quarter, Chaz Green was pulled for Byron Bell. And Monday of this week during this press conference, Jason Garrett said they're going to reevaluate the swing tackle position. So they're basically not even saying that Chaz Green might not start if Smith is not back this week. They're saying that he might not even be active and be the swing tackle, but it's going to come down to Byron Bell or Chaz Green himself. Like Joe Looney is a guard center, so it was a bad week, and Jason Garrett tried to do everything possible to get some of the pressure off of Chaz Green, because of you have to do something to try to save the defense after that. Like that game, it was so bad. You have to do something. And Frank Pollock, Cowboys offensive line coach, said also that we have to try to save his confidence somehow, not try to lose him after a performance like that. And I'm sure players always say they don't look at social media, but I'm sure Chaz Green saw what fans had to say. And
No question. I mean, and Garrett comes from the Belichick press conference school. He's only going to talk and coach speak the entire time and not really give you anything that he shouldn't say. More often than not, he's not going to go off on that the infamous Dennis Green rant. He's just going to tell you the very least that he has to say and then get out of there. One of his players on the bus. That's just how he operates, and it's a good rule of thumb. The bus.
Well, for Jason Garrett to say that they don't even that the swing tackle position is being evaluated, that's as close as he will come to throwing a player under the bus. Like that's pretty much him saying that is like that's telling that he would say that during the press conference.
Yeah, it's definitely a tone shift, if you will. Obviously, the fan base and really needs for him to allude to some type of change. I'm not going to read much into tidbit of his press conference. Where do we go from here? Like, do we have somebody else on the roster that's going to fulfill that swing tackle role and make us better? I think we're just going to wait out the storm till I'm back. That's just all there is to it.
And hope that's this week with the Eagles coming to town. And I guess, I mean, do you have any other thoughts about the game? I mean, to me, there's really just not so. Looking at it is like there's just honestly, this is one of the films I think you should just throw the fuck out because there's not much to gain from either team.
I have a lot of thoughts from this game. I just want to forget most of them. But that being said, I think the bottom line is a pretty big loss for us, especially because we needed to keep pace with the Eagles. And we had a chance to pick up a half game with them being in the bye, especially going into a matchup with them this week. At the same time, it really you can't contribute this loss to the overall good we are as a team when we're healthy. I think this is just one of those losses that is just going to happen when guys get dinged up. You lose players at key positions, and it's going to affect your entire team. It'll happen on Sunday to stay healthy and move forward and try to get evaluation from some of the young guys that you threw in there and hope will succeed, and then forward the front office find new prospects and try to fill those holes because obviously they weren't the ones that could help us stay afloat.
Yeah, no, I guess to end up on the game talk is like this was the worst game that Orlando Scandrick had in quite some time, and he had to blow up with Jason Garrett on the sideline. And Jason Garrett was doing everything possible to not have that altercation in the sideline, but Scandrick kept yelling. Garrett was just pretty much like, we'll talk. Pretty much he was trying to pass him off, like, we'll talk after the game. Let's not do this. We know cameras are watching. Scandrick kept yelling. That's not good from a captain. And one of your only veteran really in the secondary at this point. So that was not good to see on camera, and he was not playing well, period. He was not playing well. That was a bad game. Anthony Brown, his technique finally caught up to him and cost him. There's not much else to be said. It's like, yeah, he didn't have a good game either. Something's going on at linebacker without Sean Lee. Damian Wilson was terrible on the touchdown to, I believe, Hooper at the one. I was like, he completely blew his assignment. So there's things to look. There's things to definitely else go into and talk about, but that snowballed, and Scandrick cannot do that. And everyone knows he has a chip on his shoulder. But that can't happen when you're playing bad and the team needs leadership. So that needs to be corrected immediately. Maybe that's something Sean Lee would have corrected if he wasn't
injury.
he wasn't even really. He was so frustrated. He wasn't even standing near anyone else. I mean, he was off to the side by himself, just standing with his helmet on. So I mean, that's just things that just Scandrick can't have blowups like that either. It's just a game where the Falcons can't be that happy because they didn't really to win the game other than show up. And Cowboys offensive line did everything to lose it, and Sean Lee got hurt, and then that snowballed. But a note is Justin Hardy had a touchdown catch that's relevant in this discussion. We both went to ECU, and nice to see ECU players, all three of them, do well in the NFL.
I was happy for a brief moment for the Falcons.
I was like, hey, look, Justin Hardy doesn't go. Yeah, you're catching it for the Falcons, man. You could have dropped that one. But Justin Hardy doesn't drop passes. He's in the NFL for his route running and his hands. He does not drop passes.
He has the hands.
No, he's a 6'1", skinny receiver who runs great routes and has great hands. That's why he lasted to the fourth round. He has a lot better hands than Zay Jones, who's with the Bills. That's neither here nor there. But yeah, moving into the topic of discussion, and there's a lot to talk about. I guess first we can get this out of the way. News broke not that very long ago. Ezekiel Elliot is giving up all the rest of his appeals process. There was one coming up again end of this month or December 1st, something like that. And he's basically said, I'm foregoing all the rest of my appeals, which to me draws questions as to motivations, because throughout the whole thing, he said that I'm appealing this to clear my name and show that I did not do anything wrong. And now to give up on that, even with another appeal left, to me is like, I'll let you jump in there because I don't quite understand the move now.
Yeah, trying to clear his name. This has been his story for the entire season. The timing of him, the appeal is really telling. I think it really, in the Jerry Jones situation, I think they're very closely correlated. I think him not pursue his appeal any further has to do with how the have come at Jerry this week. I think told him to just go ahead and take it. Let's not anger the league anymore. Let's just. As soon as I say this, then I'm starting to think about Jerry's overall personality, and that's just not how he operates. So, I might be completely wrong on this, but it just seems like the timing of the two are very closely related.
Yeah, there's a lot to go into with Jerry Jones, the league, Papa John's, what the owners are saying, why Arthur Blank and Jerry Jones did not talk before the game at all. Arthur Blank is on an influential committee dealing with the commissioner and his contract and all that stuff. If the NFL was a TV series on Netflix, this would be the storyline of the first season of this behind the scenes of the NFL. This would literally be the storyline of what's going on around the Cowboys this season in relation to the NFL and society as a whole. That's a topic of the week. We just have a whole week to talk about all that stuff that come out of it. But relating as to what happened with this game and what's going on with personnel decisions, Darren McFadden the story was that he was on the inactive list to start season to stay fresh in case this situation happened. He got one carry in the second half for -2 yards and was taken immediately out the game. I don't get it. I don't understand. And that's what I was alluding to before. Alfred Morris, he's just slow. When he gets the ball, you can tell there's no speed there. He lost a lot of weight. There's not much power there anymore either. And I see, between Darren McFadden and Rod Smith, I think Darren McFadden has the speed. to, when he gets a hole, he's going to hit that hole and he's going to get through it effectively. Rod Smith has got a little bit more power and he can be your short yardage back and get those short yards. The coaching staff, for some reason, is all in on Alfred Morris. Again, this is from someone who's looked at the tape. I don't get it. Like Nick Eatman has said the same thing on Dallas Cowboys. I don't get looking at the tape as far as who the better runner is. Darren McFadden. They say he missed a couple of blocks in the preseason. Okay, you missed a couple of blocks in the preseason. That does not erase everything you did in this system when you had no quarterback play that's to speak of with Matt Cass on Brandon Weeden. Used to get over 1,000 yards after they, again, made a previously other bad mistake with Joseph Randall, who was not the runner of Darren McFadden and definitely did not have the character of Darren McFadden. So I don't quite understand if this is a situation where Jerry Jones made the unilateral decision. I like Darren McFadden. He came from Arkansas. We're going to sign him. And the coaching staff was never really on board with it. That's a theory. Maybe they never really wanted McFadden here in the first place, and that's why they're just not playing him. He's just on the roster to make Jerry happy. But still, when I see the film, it's like McFadden would give you more than Morris. That's one of the things to discussion.
Disagree with that. I mean, I don't want to speculate as to why he's on the roster, but from what I know that he has in his skill set, I think he adds more to our offense than what Alfred Morris or Rod Smith can. He just has that breakaway speed that can take into a 30 or 40-yard carry in the blink of an eye. And that's just not something that is known for. Like, yeah, he had that 70-yard run earlier this season, but mostly he's just known as being a zone runner. His money as being a zone runner in Shanahan's scheme in Washington.
A zone runner who was 20 pounds heavy.
That don't know, like a zone run is when you get the entire offensive line direction, either the right or the left, and that gives the running back that motion, but is also able to take that one quick cut back, and for the most part, the defense will overflow back the room to just break off a big run. Like, that's just what Alfred Morris made his money on in the NFL so far. The Cowboys do run a fairly successful zone run scheme, but I do understand why they like to keep Alfred Morris in there in the game. Zone runs with, but I think that Darren McFadden would bring more to the table for us.
And Darren McFadden, again, he started 12 games in 2015. And in the other 4 games, he maybe had 12 carries total. That was a zone running scheme, was a Cowboys zone running scheme. And yeah, for the zone run scheme, it forces the defense to be more disciplined than it does a man-on-man power blocking scheme. Because it's more about combo blocks, coming off those combo blocks, getting to the second level. And if the defense doesn't fit into their run fits, they're going to get gashed somewhere. There's going to be a hole. But Alfred Morris they told him to lose weight when he came to the Cowboys. He's lost about 20 pounds. He's not carrying defenders as much. He had that one carry last week where he carried a guy for about 5 yards, but you don't see that consistently with him. When there's a pileup, he goes down immediately. And Darren McFadden has better hands than Alfred Morris. So I don't get it. There's something going on there, and also with coaching issues. You got to look at Frank Pollock and Jason Garrett as it comes to the left tackle position and Chaz Green. They gave Chaz Green the left guard position coming out of training camp. Did it have something to do with his draft status? Maybe, maybe not. I really can't get it. You really can't really know without speculating. But I've always Cooper is a guard. I never thought Chaz Green was going to be a good guard because he just wasn't big enough, he didn't have the body enough to do it. But after the game this past Sunday, he looked like he doesn't have the feet to be a tackle anymore. So you just have to look at that as what is going on in the offensive lineman's room when it comes down to Pollock and Mark Colombo getting a player ready and he looked like they said he had a great week of practice. I don't understand how a player can look that bad, and they waited quite some time to make the decision to pull him for Byron Bell. Who again, Byron Bell did not look that great when he was in there. I have not been a fan of Byron Bell at all since training camp. Him and Emmett Clear, I was like, how are you judging Kellen Moore when those two are his tackles? No one has a chance. Emmett Clear, again, as I said, he's at the Lions now, and he had to play this past week. So just looking at that position itself and what was going on there, the running back room is also something different. There's something going on there. I'm not sure why Darren McFadden is just not being used at all. That there was a mistake there, but there's something going on with coaching and evaluating your own players or evaluating what you're doing, because there is no reason a player who has played tackle his whole career should look that bad in a game, regardless of if they were chipping or not or helping or not. You should not look that bad at all. Like, if that falls on the player, that falls on the coaches. Like, what is going on there is a big topic of discussion this week, I think.
Yeah, there's no question. But at the same time, are we underestimating at all the strength of the Atlanta defensive line?
Claiborne was not playing like that. Not with the same. He was doing the same. It was the same move over and over again. Like it's like Chaz Green didn't know how to come back. That was like, get depth. He is way out there. If you just get depth and force him completely, you just have to force him. You just have to force him vertically just a little bit. He's going to run past Dak Prescott's drop every time. Chaz Green couldn't do that. That's something tackles probably learned in high school, middle school.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Like, one thing that tackles are taught from the get-go when I played offensive line is the main thing is to get depth. The deeper you get, the wider they have to go, or else they'll have to come back across, which gives them more room in the pocket to just roll around. But no, you're exactly right.
And he was looking at he was taking his drops, and it was like just a little bit of, I don't even know what kind of it was barely any kind of angle. He was just dropping back up. I was like, what are you doing? Like, I've never played tackle, lined up a tackle in my life other than a joke on a play during practice once. So it was like, hey, let me be a tackle. Like, for what? I'm not going to take that little. I was like, well, that's an NFL player across from me. I don't care who it is. And you kept doing it over and over again and getting beat the same way. Even again, when Jonathan Cooper, they aligned Jonathan Cooper, who's swinging out there to take everything to the inside. Chaz Green does the same thing and still gives the direct path around him to Dak. I don't. He's been getting splitting snaps on Wednesdays at left tackle for the past 3 weeks when Tyron Smith was not practicing on Wednesdays. It's embarrassing. I hate burying players. I hate when fans bury players. I hate when writers bury players. But coaching can only do so much. And I know for a fact Pollock is probably not in there, but like, don't get any depth at all. You'll be able to block him that way. There's no way they was being taught that. How is your technique getting that bad? I know guard technique is different. You don't have to worry about depth as much, but you've been practicing tackle most of your career. Is one training camp practicing guard going to take all of that away? I don't know. You can jump in. I just don't know what was going on there.
I could jump in, but honestly, I really don't think there's much else to say on this particular topic. I mean, we can beat a dead horse, but it was just a piss poor effort. But that's the bottom line.
Is it an effort? I mean, you played offensive line. Is it an effort thing? It's a mental thing? Does it get in your head if you've been beaten?
No, it's a technique thing. I mean, I guess honestly, technique will evolve from a mentality standpoint. So maybe his confidence was shook at some point, and he just reverted back to his most basic instinct, which was obviously wrong. It was just, I'm trying to come up with an excuse for how bad he played. I really can't do it. It just,
I haven't seen.
I don't know. I mean, if he got beat by the same move every time, one would assume that he would try to switch some things up against Claiborne and try to avoid that little hand swipe away.
It wasn't. I mean, going back to his draft status, like he was
Yeah,
the one knockdown on Chaz Green coming out of Florida was his proneness to injury. That was it. Everyone else was saying if he was not injury prone, he could have been a late first to a middle second pick. That's a really good tackle. He was supposed to be athletic. How are your feet as an athletic tackle where you just forget how to get depth and just all you have to do is push him a little bit. When a wide nine technique, I think it's ridiculous because most wide nine techniques, you're not going to be able to get back inside because you're so far out to the outside. If you're trying to scrape across the back, you're going to run into the guard or something. You're going to run into someone else. Like you're not really going to be able to get a sack by cutting across. And most tackles will be able to see that coming. You have to get around the outside unless you do an immediate move to the inside and beat someone with quickness. But if you're coming to the outside, all a tackle has to do is like push. Oh, wait. Oh, quarterback just has to climb one step and there's no sack coming. And like some people were saying, like, well, Dak could have helped a little bit more by climbing the pocket a bit. You do not expect your left tackle on your blind side to get beaten off the ball from a wide nine technique like that. You don't expect.
at the same time, you don't want to have to bet on your quarterback having to move up. Yeah, he could have, but the pocket should be secure enough at that point where he doesn't have to.
Like
A quarterback moving up in the pocket is worst case scenario.
yeah, Dak wasn't holding the ball at extraordinary long periods of time. It was just like he was getting beaten that bad. Like
yeah, I certainly do not hold Sunday's events against Dak. I mean, Dak didn't do anything wrong as far as I saw.
I mean, even the sack that Zach Martin gave up, it was immediately he got beat on the inside immediately.
Yeah,
but that's Zach Martin. I mean, he's allowed one sack a year, I guess. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, and I guess we can. Yeah. I don't want to pile on Chaz Green. I'm sure he's got enough grief in the locker room. Well, I'm hoping the players, especially the rest of the offensive linemen, were like, "We know you're not that bad. We know you're not that bad. We've seen you play a lot better. But man, you can't do that ever again." Like I'm sure there were some talks by somebody. Travis Frederick evidently is the most vocal person in the offensive lineman room. I'm sure he had some things to say to him to like try to stay off of social media. I hope that was the first thing said to him, like try to stay off as much as you can this week. Like, yeah, we can talk about the linebackers. Like, I don't understand. Damian Wilson and Kyle Wilber basically are only playing Sam linebacker. That's the strong side linebacker, pretty much. They always strong and weak side linebackers. For those who don't know, they switch sides depending on the strength of the offensive formation to help free up the will. Pretty much in this scheme, Rob Maryland's scheme, the old Tampa scheme where they were playing around Derek Brooks, like the will and Sam and the Mike are there to eat up blocks to free up the will. Pretty much think if you're old enough, Sean Lee is Derek Brooks. And actually, that's a really good comparison because I think Derek Brooks is probably a better pass rusher than Sean Lee. That's probably the only difference between the two. And I think Derek Brooks is like an inch or two taller. So the Sam stays on the strong side, and where the tight end is, or the strength of formation, or the fullback's going to be, depending on what formation they're in. And that's always Wilbur and Wilson. Wilson has more athleticism, but I think he doesn't have the awareness to play the other position or be trusted in the other position. Wilbur has always been that Sam. They told him to lose weight to only be Sam and not play as a defense end at all. But when Lee leaves, everything else gets doubled in together. You bring in someone else to play well, and it just looks bad. Jalen Smith plays Mike. Then you probably move over Hitchens to Will, and Jalen Smith, for one, he's not completely healthy. He's just not completely healthy yet. And people want to jump on him as like his literally the nerves haven't reshot yet. He's not completely healthy. And Anthony Hitchens, I don't know. Like they had to do something to Hitchens still play decently without Lee in the game, but there's something missing when Lee's not in there. They're not getting either not getting lined up correctly. They have to look deep into the film and see what is going on because I don't. I know Lee's a great player. I'm one of his biggest fans. The only thing keeping him to me out of the Hall of Fame was probably all these injuries. But it can't look that bad on defense without one guy. Defense is about effort and about staying sound to your assignment. Why are the assignments falling off that bad when Sean Lee is not playing?
It has to come down to Sean Lee just being the quarterback of the defense. That gets the deep. He's a guy that the extra effort on film days and know exactly where the defense needs to be. There, like the next guy up, who the linebacker is calling the plays at that point. But he's not going to say he's bad at it, but he's not as knowledgeable as Sean Lee is at diagnosing an offense.
I believe it's Hitchens.
I think that's just the biggest difference that you're looking for right there. Obviously, anybody the next guy up is not going to be as athletically gifted as Sean Lee is, or as gifted as a football mentality. But and that's even the football mentality is not even talking about the play calling mentality. That's two different things. Is what I'm talking about right now. Like you can have football instincts and athletic ability, but still not know which plays to call. There's two different things. But Sean Lee is the type of guy that brings all those three things together. Have that on the roster to supplement when Sean Lee's injured.
And
I think that's the biggest thing right there.
For Cowboys fans, what Ben was just speaking about is think about Bruce Carter, who was a second-round draft pick. The difference between Bruce Carter and Sean Lee is not athleticism. Bruce Carter was insanely athletic, but it's awareness. Bruce Carter had all the athletic ability in the world to get there, but Bruce Carter had some of the worst awareness of all time and did not know where he was going half the time. And in the NFL, if you don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter how much athleticism you have, especially on defense, you will be exposed. And that's just the thing. I think when Lee's not in there, Hitchens, he starts being the play caller and trying to get people lined up. But he even said last week when he was on Hang with the Boys that Sean Lee puts in all that effort. And he doesn't leave the facilities until like 5 p.m. And after all the practices and everything, he keeps watching film and everything. Gets it up in the back of my head. I'm like, hey, Hitch, why don't you stay with him? He kind of gets hurt a lot. I mean, in the back of my head, I'm just like, hey, can you stay with him from now on? Because we need somebody to do something. And is that the problem? Do the Cowboys have linebacker depth issues, and now do they have tackle depth issues? Because can you be confident in the backup tackles right now? And can you be confident in the linebacking core without Sean Lee, because it comes down to Jalen Smith having to play a lot more plays. And Wilson has to play more plays than Wilbur has to play more plays. So you wouldn't think it would be that bad. And that's kind of what is disheartening to me, because one player should not make that big of a difference on defense.
No, it shouldn't. But I still, like, as you're explaining this, I'm starting to think that maybe our defense is we thought our defense was finally there. At last week after we beat the Chiefs, we thought our defense was finally there.
Played good.
And I think what we need to start saying is our starting defense is there. But our biggest problem right now is having that depth on defense that will, throughout the course of an entire season, when guys do get banged up and bruised. That's just inevitable. And yeah, losing Sean Lee hurts, but we got to have that next guy up. We got to have somebody better than Durant, or somebody that's going to
be active.
Yeah, be active. And maybe it's got to be a younger guy. Maybe it's got to be Jalen Smith that picks up the torch and follows Sean Lee around or Jalen Smith. Or maybe it's somebody that we draft this season that starts tagging him along. But at this point, moving forward, personnel-wise, I think we need to start worrying about depth. Starters in place, especially on the defensive line. We also need to worry about having that overall depth there at the core of our defense.
Yeah, and I think that's a good transition to the draft stuff coming up pretty soon that we'll be diving into. And yeah, it's at this point, it's like you got depth at the defensive line. If you can figure out a way to bring back Irving, which should be pretty easy, and get back Lawrence, which that might have to do a franchise tag, might have to negotiate. There's other things going on who we might not know how Lawrence feels about them surrounding the team, so that might make it a little bit more difficult as well. It involves the owner if you're interested. And then you have to look at, because a lot of resources in the past draft were spent in the secondary. I do not want to see them go out and draft more corners. Like, you still have Marquez White, who hasn't seen the field yet on the practice squad. Like, the secondary should be fine. Should be fine for the most part. When going to the draft, you have to start looking at, do you want to draft a swing tackle? Do you want to draft some linebackers? Do you want to draft another defensive end? How do you make this team better? Because we were talking about just like last week, we were talking about maybe in the first round, if there's a stud wide receiver, make that pick. Now, can they even afford to do that? There's a lot of questions there to how to secure the depth. Offense seems fine, and also we pitched around the idea, should the Cowboys go out and draft a running back in the fourth round, third round, and to have a young running back out there, seeing you can get a lot of value out of running back in later rounds. So there's a lot of questions around what to do, and there's also like there's not as much questions around the coaching staff that I believe that a lot of other people have been saying. Is the coaching staff bad? I don't think the coaching staff is bad. I think they're stuck in their ways a little bit with certain things too much. They keep getting called in, or we're going to have one guy at running back, and we're just going to do that. You don't have to win that way. And I don't know. There seems to be some things going on in the coaching room that are at odds with what's going on in the owner's office.
Yeah, I definitely think looking back at some of the stories we have coming out of Big D, you're not far off from the truth. There's just a lot of disconnect, and maybe Jerry's a little preoccupied with other endeavors. Honestly, I really don't know. This has been one of the toughest I can remember just watching the Cowboys, even though we have a lot of talent on the team. Like, most of the time, it's just hard to watch because of a lack of talent. But now we have talent, but it's hard to watch because of all the outside factors, mainly being Jerry Jones.
Yeah, that's – and the other thing, Jerry Jones isn't just the owner of the team. It would be one thing if Jerry Jones was just the owner, but he's the person that Will McClay, head of the personnel, reports to. Well, technically, it's Stephen, but we know Jerry and whatever. What they want to do.
It's Jerry.
Yeah, it's Will McClay does all the personnel stuff. Stephen and Jerry just are there to pretend like they're doing something important. To be honest, that's really what Stephen and Jerry in their titles mean. Will McClay is doing all that stuff. Will McClay can't say that publicly, but everyone who has any sense of how the Dallas Cowboys work in the backstage knows that Will McClay is doing all those real. So he's de facto the general manager. Jerry just gets to veto everything or do what Jerry wants. There's been a lot of stories past couple of years of how Will McClay has had to bring together scouts who have one opinion, coaches who have one opinion, and then he has to formulate his own opinion with that. And then he has one more hoop to go through, whether if he was just the general manager and wouldn't have this, he has to go talk to Jerry about it. And then he has to convince, hey, Jerry, I talked to everyone. I think this is the right way to go. Hey, I want Manziel. No, Jerry, we don't. Let's have a little conversation about Johnny Manziel. We scouted him. This is what we think about him. And this is his but he's got all these attitude problems. But oh man, he would be so good backing up Tony. And we really like this guy named Zach Martin. He's a tackle at Notre Dame. So this is the things that literally probably Will McClay has to do. He has to do all those extra hoops. And Jerry being involved, we've been trying to stay away from these topics on the show and not go deep into them. But Jerry's doing the things that Jerry's doing and talking about and going forward with the commissioner and doing all this stuff. How is Jerry going to be prepared to make decisions in the offseason as a general manager if he's not putting his attention and efforts into that? So it's basically falling on Will McClay, who never gets talked about in the press, to have to be like, well, how do I get Jerry to just trust me and not question anything or try to go somewhere else when everyone sings? And to Jerry's credit, in the past couple of seasons, since Will McClay has been there, this might be a product of Will McClay. The narrative has been Jerry is starting to listen to the people around him and is starting to make better decisions because of that. That's because of Will McClay. Will that change this season because Jerry is doing everything else that Jerry's doing this season, which is unprecedented as far as NFL is concerned? That's a question.
My inclination is to say that everything, because I have written one of those Will McClay articles that you're referring to. Single-handedly, the sole reason we've made this turnaround over the last 4 seasons, just overhauling the defense and the offense, and just a lot of positions, especially on offense. But how will this offseason go? I believe the way the last couple seasons have gone, I mean, the only difference is Jerry's just making his own turmoil ball arena, so to speak.
I think
the scouting. I'm sorry?
My only concern with that is are the things Jerry is doing, is he going to – Cowboys don't go after high-priced free agents, and they haven't since Will McClay has been there. But has the things Jerry has been doing publicly, and you can look them up yourselves, we're trying not to go into them here, have the things he's been doing going to cause certain free agents to not want to play in Dallas?
Logic's going to say yes. I mean, I think that there are going to be those free agents that are not going to want to come to Dallas anymore because of Jerry. Especially when you look at the way especially when you look at his stance on the kneeling for the anthem. Guys, especially players in this day and age, don't want to play for a guy as closed-minded as Jerry Jones is. Granted, most teams are owned by old white guys, especially this day and age, but most of them are not as vocal about their opinions as Jerry is.
Yeah, I think Bill McNair is the only.
That's certainly going to throw a wrench into everything that we're going to try to do this offseason.
I think Bill McNair is the only one who's made his situation worse with his comment. Yeah, you can't do that. And for those who excuse that comment, shouldn't have been made in the first place. The fact that he made the comment that shouldn't have been made in the first place worse is not a defense of him misspeaking. That's just not something you say. So I don't know. I just wish Jerry would leave stuff alone right now and let the team play football, because that's what a lot of the owners were talking about, was let the teams play football. Jerry, let the team play football and stop making all these other issues away from football.
Are you really surprised? Because, I mean, even since Jerry took over the team in, '89, his entire MO is not to really make the best football news, but just to make the news. Right, that's the reason why the Cowboys are $2 billion franchise today. It's not because we've been good. Like, if you look back at the course, especially especially the last 15 years, about how the value of the Cowboys franchise has
skyrocketed.
It's not – we haven't skyrocketed because we're good. We haven't fucking won a playoff – or we won one playoff game since two playoff games since Romo took over. Yeah. We won 2 playoff games since Romo took over as quarterback. That's it. But the reason why the value of the Cowboys franchise is so high is because we're always in the news. And that's what Jerry's done. He's always kept the Cowboys in the news, whether it be blockbuster signing or, big blockbuster over signing or an over trading to pick a diva wide receiver who is going to be good for 4 years, and then you're going to overpay him for the next 6. Little things like that.
Yeah, that's a terrible reference, because sometimes we talk about over trading for wide receivers. 3 names jumped up. Is he talking about T.O.? Is he talking about Roy Williams, or is he talking about Joey Gallo? Okay, he's talking about T.O. Yeah.
Or actually, Dez is starting to get in that conversation now.
Yeah, that's another. That's going to be a interesting stalemate in the next offseason if they make it one. Yeah, I don't know. It's just all the stuff going on. Is just that I hope Will McClay is able to do his job. He doesn't get any credit in the public, and that's a little annoying, because since Jerry eats up all of the energy has to be on Jerry. That bothers me, because Will McClay has done so much to get this team rebuilt. I just hope that Jerry stays hands off and just lets Will do Will things. And when it comes to free agents and it comes to the draft, Will is the de facto GM and Jerry just gets his name on it because he's the owner. That's really all I hope for. That's the best thing we can hope for as fans right now.
Best thing. I think the best thing fans can hope for is the other owners actually go through with kicking Jerry out, and then we can make actual GM. I think that's best case scenario. But
yeah, I mean, Jerry's never been that popular with Cowboys fans, and I've been one of few who has been like, yeah, the Cowboys haven't had that much playoff success in the past 20 years, but the team is moving this way. Romo's doing his thing. He's obviously not going to fire himself. We can't make him fire himself. So I'm kind of like, Jerry's Jerry, kind of have to ignore him for your Cowboys fan. You just kind of have to accept that Jerry's Jerry. Now, with all that's coming on, you can't really ignore Jerry, because Jerry isn't allowing you to ignore Jerry. And the whole Ezekiel Elliot situation has been a mess. And yeah, that's where we're at right now. Just have to hope that Cowboys can beat the Eagles this weekend and make all these questions go away for a week anyway. But yeah, that's about all the time we have for this episode. We will be back tomorrow. We'll do our pick'ems for the week, and we'll go through some things, and we'll set the stage up for this weekend slate of games and what we have in store next for the show. And we'll have some announcements to make about where you're going to be able to see some of our rating coming up as well. So definitely stay tuned, and yeah, let's hope next Sunday is better than the past one, so for as far as the Cowboys go.
All right, guys. See you tomorrow.